Kylie's incredible discovery, uncovering the 17 hidden truths behind the church's shocking secrets. Kylie was a golden ray of laughter in a small-town diner, the kind of waitress every customer adored. At just 23, she had the spirit of someone bound for greatness, though few could see the storm brewing inside her. But life was heavy these days. Her father, a Vietnam veteran and pillar of the community, lay in a hospital bed, fighting for every breath. As she wiped down tables, her heart raced and her mind swirled with worry. How could she keep everything from crumbling around her? It was during a week of volunteering at the church that she stumbled upon a dust-caked journal in the cramped basement. Its pages, yellowed and brittle, whispered secrets that ignited her curiosity. What should have been a sanctuary of faith screamed with the echoes of deceit. Kylie's heart pounded as she turned the pages, revealing shocking truths about the very pillar she'd always leaned on. The church, once her beacon of hope, had been complicit in deep-rooted inequalities and biases, further pushing families like hers into the shadows. With each entry she read, her anger simmered, transforming into a fiery resolve. As time ran thin with her father's declining health, the weight on her shoulders became unbearable. Each breath he took felt tied to a ticking clock of despair. With tremors of indignation bubbling under her skin, she knew she couldn't stay silent any longer. Kylie had to speak out, not just for her father, but for their community, too. She resolved to confront the congregation, to let the light in on what she had discovered. On a crisp Sunday morning, she strode into the church, her heart racing against the rhythm of the ancient, creaky floorboards. The air felt heavy as she looked at familiar faces filled with expectation. Standing before the congregation, Kylie's voice trembled but grew strong as she shared the journal's revelations. People turned to one another in disbelief, murmurs rippling through the pews. Some faces blanched, while others ignited with fury. The sanctum of their faith was being assaulted by a reality they had long turned away from. Before she knew it, a cacophony of voices erupted around her, some supporting her, others furiously defending their traditions. Kylie felt the heat of the moment, the stakes rising as the leaders she once revered rose to challenge her. She wanted to retreat, to hide between the familiar waitressing booths of the diner, but her father's example anchored her. Standing firm, she felt the truth radiating from her core. Just as she thought she could pull the strings of justice together, an explosive revelation tumbled from the pages. A dark truth buried deep within the journal sent shockwaves through the congregation. Gasps filled the air, hearts raced in fear as the church lights flickered ominously above them. Kylie grasped the weight of her discovery, both a power and a peril. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With her heart in turmoil and emotions raw, Kylie felt the collective weight of uncertainty in the chilly air. As the tumult continued to brew, she stepped back into the shadows of the church, facing a path where fighting for justice might come at a steep price. Would her courage galvanize the townspeople to confront the truth, or would her challenges only deepen the divides? The answers lay just beyond her grasp, as the night fell softly outside, cloaking her community in a hazy ambiguity that lingered, restless and alive. Kylie stood frozen in the dim light filtering through the stained glass, the sanctity of the moment wrapping around her like a suffocating shroud. The tremors of disbelief and anger washed over the room, but Kylie's heart beat for something greater than her fear. As whispers morphed into shouts, she found her voice rising above the chaos, clear and unwavering. "This isn't just about the church," she called out, her eyes locking with those filled with both rage and sorrow. "This is about the families you've ignored. About the community we've all been a part of. How many of you knew about this? How many of you turned a blind eye because confronting it was too hard?" The faces in the pews shifted, some eyes darting away in shame while others burned with indignation. Pastor John, a man she had respected since childhood, stood at the forefront, his brow furrowed and face flushed. "Kylie, you need to respect the sanctuary where we gather," he said, his voice thick with disapproval. "These accusations are heavy-handed and unfounded." Kylie took a deep breath, her determination solidifying. "What's heavy-handed is silence. It's time we face the truth of what this church has become." She could feel the pulse of the moment in her veins, the congregation vibrating with a mix of shock and an awakening fury. "But you're tearing apart everything we have," someone from the back shouted, their voice cracking under pressure. Kylie's heart sank, caught between affirmation and rejection, fighting to hold on to her voice amidst growing dissent. "It's not about tearing apart, it's about rebuilding. We can't continue to champion equality when so many of us feel left behind. This journal tells us we've fallen into the same pitfalls we claim to despise." With each word, the gravity of her discoveries echoed in the hearts of her neighbors. Faces, once warm and familiar, now bore the expressions of a community in conflict. She caught glimpses of her father's face as he appeared last in her memory, a quiet strength enveloped by despair, the man who had defied every battle yet remained vulnerable in others. As the energy in the room shifted, Kylie's adrenaline surged. "There are families right in this community, just like mine, suffering under the weight of your indifference." A few heads nodded. A few voices began to murmur in agreement, hesitant but intrigued. From the front pew, Tom, a father whose son had fallen through the cracks of prosperity that the church preached, finally stood. "Kylie's right. My family, we've been silent because we thought it was safer. But no more." His declaration ignited a ripple of support. A chorus of voices joined Tom, each person entwined in the common thread of their shared pain and longing for change. The walls of the church trembled under the thunderous wave of emotion, a tide that seemed almost hopeful, yet still laden with fear. Did they dare confront their foundations? Did they dare to believe in a new beginning? In the din of voices raising with resolve, Kylie's heart raced. As she stepped away from the lectern, the roar of the congregation enveloped her. There was still so much work to be done. Their journey had just begun. Yet, in the back of her mind, an unsettling question shadowed the triumph that bubbled upward: was the truth worth the fallout? Would their newfound courage spill over into discord, fracturing the last threads of community support they clung to? Time hung heavy with consequence, and the next move would be crucial. Would she keep pushing forward, or would she retreat to the shadows of doubt? As the last echoes of the uproar faded, Kylie felt a lone tear slide down her cheek, uncertainty and hope conflicting within her. And, just as she thought she'd found her place, another voice rose from the crowd. "What do we do next, Kylie?" The moment of truth loomed ahead, waiting for her answer. Kylie blinked, caught off guard. The room had transformed into a cauldron of emotions, and now her heart raced with the weight of expectation. She felt the eyes of the congregation on her, each pair filled with yearning for direction. How was she supposed to lead a community through chaos when she was still deciphering her own feelings? She began, her voice wavering, but the resolve inside her was starting to solidify again. "We start by listening to one another, by sharing our stories." A murmur of agreement echoed through the crowd. The tension in the air shifted from hostility to something that felt like anticipation, a spark of connection igniting amid the chaos. "Let us make a space for everyone who has felt left out," she continued, her voice gaining strength. "For anyone who has been hurt in silence. We can't fix everything overnight, but we can begin to heal by acknowledging our truths. Let us gather, share, talk, find a way forward together." As she spoke, she saw the thoughtful nods and hopeful glances. Someone in the back, a young woman named Sarah, stood and said, "I've been afraid to speak up. My family's struggles aren't just ours, they're part of a bigger pattern. We need to change that." Encouraged by Sarah's bravery, others joined in. Men and women of different ages began to rise, trembling but resolute. It was a tide of life lessons and raw emotions crashing down, things hidden beneath the surface for far too long. Each story seemed like a piece of a puzzle, showing the church's cracks, the families left behind. Kylie felt a warmth bloom through her, the kind that comes from shared purpose. She noticed Tom taking a step closer, his face set with grim determination. "We've been keeping each other in the dark," he said. "Let us hold a meeting, a safe space where we can all talk freely. Together, we can shine light on issues the church has overlooked for years." The congregation buzzed with energy, voices rising as they tossed around ideas. Some would organize, while others would reach out to families. Kylie felt a swell of pride in witnessing her community come alive with new strength. Yet, amid the applause and conversations, a chilling realization crept in: what if not everyone wanted this change? What if those who clung to the past fought back harder than they cared to admit? As she steeled herself against the encroaching doubt, a shadow flickered at the edge of her mind. The journal that had started this all rested in her bag, a reminder of the dark secrets they now faced. What about the other truths we've uncovered? She wondered aloud. Shouldn't we include those in our discussions? An awkward silence fell upon the group as the weight of her words settled like a thick fog. Before she could continue, a voice cut through the air. Pastor John, his tone sharper than before. "You can't just air out dirty laundry without understanding the implications, Kylie. The past is what has kept us together." With that, the room felt charged again, tension sparking like static electricity. Instead of shying away, Kylie felt a fire ignite within her. "Then let us understand it. Let us face it together. But holding on to lies only chains us." The words hung between them, daring anyone to challenge her. The congregation watched, breaths held tight, questioning their loyalties. Would they rally behind her or uphold the past that had comforted them? Kylie could only hope they would choose truth, but uncertainty laced her heart. What lay ahead was uncharted territory, a crossroads that no one could navigate without the courage to move forward, and as silence wrapped around them, she dared to ask, "Are you all with me?" The tension crackled as they gathered their thoughts, yet the path forward was unclear. Would they stand together, or would fear render their resolve ineffective? Kylie stood at the center of the room, her heart drumming louder with each passing second. The silence felt like quicksand, threatening to pull her in and suffocate her hope. She searched the faces before her, some lined with worry, others lit with determination. What would they decide? Tom stepped forward, breaking the spell. "We've been holding back for too long." His voice rang out, powerful and raw. "If we are going to change, we need to confront our fears." "I'm in." A ripple of murmurs swept through the group, transformative energy zipping through the air. That flicker of defiance sparked flashes of courage in others. "I support this too." Sarah piped up, now more confident. "I want to share my story, to reveal how everything is intertwined. We have to lift the veil." Kylie's heart soared, and yet unease brushed against the edges of her elation. It might start a revolution, but what would the church's elders think? Pastor John's disapproval loomed large, like a storm cloud in the distance. Just then, a man named Marcus stood from the back with a furrowed brow. "What about our traditions? What about keeping our families intact?" His voice was heavier, laced with fear. "If we dive into these truths, will they tear us apart?" Kylie felt the tension shift again, hearts tugging in different directions. "Change doesn't mean losing our foundation," she urged, drawing on her newfound resolve. "It's about healing through honesty, and that's how we truly foster connection." In the tense stillness, echoing memories arose, years of suffering in silence, the loneliness of unvoiced fears. It had taken a journal, a discovery, and a spark of bravery to push them this far. But how could she guarantee the road didn't fracture them even further? "Maybe we can create a forum," Tom suggested. "A way to talk openly without judgment. We can address individual concerns, listen, and support one another." Kylie's breath caught in her throat. It was brilliant, simple, and yet terrifying. A forum could invite vulnerability, but it could also lead to confrontation with those who shied away from truth. That's a great idea, but it needs to be safe. We can't create a space where we risk being hurt again. The group nodded, the consensus building like a wave. But within, each heartbeat felt like the ticking of a clock. How much time did they have? As the meeting continued and ideas flew, one question lingered in the back of Kylie's mind: what were those hidden truths waiting to be unearthed? Could they really face the fallout? Sarah, sensing the weight of Kylie's silence, stepped closer. You look deep in thought. What's on your mind? Kylie hesitated, the specter of community secrets still looming. It's the journal she started, the words feeling like shards of glass. If we're uncovering everything, we have to be ready for what's in there. Some of it might tear at our very foundation. The room abruptly quieted, eyes widening with intrigue and apprehension. Each face reflected a mix of curiosity and fear. If the truths hidden within those pages were worse than they had imagined, could they handle it? Kylie locked eyes with Tom, who simply nodded, understanding without words. They were all standing at a precipice, peering into an uncertain chasm. I guess what I'm asking is, how ready are we to dive into this together? She finally asked, her voice barely above a whisper as it echoed in the spacious hall. And as they sat in a thickened atmosphere, a whispered agreement began to ripple through like a promise. But deep in her heart, Kylie felt the lingering doubt: what if this journey unraveled everything they had built? What if those same truths pulled them apart instead of binding them closer? The shadows danced closer, and she couldn't shake the feeling that a storm was brewing, one that would test their resolve like nothing before. With a final glance at the congregation, she pressed her lips together and breathed deeply. Are we truly ready for what lies ahead? Each moment stretched, pregnant with possibility and fear as she awaited their reply. The murmurs began to coalesce into a hum of uncertainty, voices overlapping in a symphony of tension. Kylie felt like she was standing on a cliff, the wind howling around her, waiting for someone to push her into the void below. Tom finally broke the silence. We can't wait forever. If we're going to do this, let us do it. Let us set a date for the forum. His resolve acted like a spark, and just like that, others stepped up, sharing their hopes and fears of what lay ahead. They talked about the need for clarity, for honesty, and for strength they now realized they could draw from one another. Kylie watched as faces transformed, shifting from anxious to intent as the idea took root. One woman, Claire, stood up. I lost my brother last year to the church's way of dealing with mental health. I've stayed silent for too long. Tears streamed down her face as she continued, it's time we share our truths. It doesn't have to be this way anymore. Kylie felt a lump in her throat. Claire's words were like tiny daggers piercing through the atmosphere, revealing raw wounds too often hidden beneath a facade. The pain echoed in the hearts of many, igniting a wave of emotion that swept through the group. Another man, David, spoke up, his voice trembling but steady. I've felt alone in my struggles for years, but if I'm not alone, if I have people backing me, maybe I can finally show my true self. I want to try. With each word, their collective courage painted a vivid picture of what could be. They weren't just taking a step toward honesty, they were pushing at the boundaries that had been forged around them. As they discussed specifics, when the forum would take place, what guidelines would safeguard their stories, Kylie's heart raced. The excitement blended with a swirl of trepidation. She couldn't shake thoughts of Pastor John and the elders. Would they allow this forum to happen? Would they try to shut it down before it even had a chance to begin? Maybe, Marcus interjected tentatively, we should get permission. They might see the value in what we're trying to do. But the undertone in his voice hinted at doubt. They all knew how entrenched the elders were in tradition, and this move felt like throwing a boulder into a still pond. Or, Kylie suggested, her voice rising above the chatter, we could come out swinging and do this without their approval. She felt the fire inside her fuel the words she spoke. I don't want to hide anymore, not from them, not from ourselves. We deserve to be heard, to share what we've endured. A tense silence hung in the air, each member reflecting on her words. What had once felt tentative now felt radical, and they were all acutely aware of the risks they were considering. "I'm with you," Tom declared, stepping forward, his jaw clenched with determination. "If we don't take this step now, when will we? If this is about healing, it needs to be our decision." As agreement flowed through the room, Kylie felt a stirring of hope. Their voices started to blend into a single force, a rallying cry. A sense of empowerment seized her as she looked around. Faces that had been so familiar suddenly felt like allies, ready to transform their vulnerabilities into strength, but in the back of her mind, an insidious doubt lingered. What if their shared strength wasn't enough? What if the truth that emerged shattered the community they had all clung to for so long? Suddenly, an unexpected knock echoed from the back door. The sound sliced through the charged atmosphere. Every head turned, breaths caught, hearts racing. Who could that be? Sarah whispered, her eyes wide. Kylie's body jolted as a wave of dread washed over her. This wasn't just any knock, it felt like a portent, the kind of signal they had all been bracing for. As she approached the door, the group leaned in, tension thick in the air. Who was waiting on the other side? The uncertainty loomed like a shadow over their newfound empowerment. Would it bring them more dread, or would it hold the answers they had sought? And as the door creaked open slowly, Kylie held her breath, wondering what new truths awaited them. As the door swung open, a gust of cold air swept into the room, sending a shiver through Kylie. She squinted into the dimly lit hallway, heart racing. Standing there, cloaked in shadows, was someone familiar yet unexpected. It was Pastor John, the very figure they had been discussing, the embodiment of the restraints they were trying to lift. "Good evening, everyone," he said, his voice smooth, but there was an undercurrent of tension that made Kylie's stomach drop. He stepped forward, and the light caught the edge of his serious expression. "I heard some commotion and thought I'd check in. What is going on?" The room felt electric with apprehension. Kylie could sense the collective breath held by the group, their unity tested. She could feel Claire's eyes darting between the pastor and the small ensemble of brave souls. Kylie gathered her courage and stepped forward. "We're planning a forum to discuss mental health and the challenges within our community." The words felt heavy on her tongue as she tried to meet his gaze, but he seemed unfazed, his brow slightly furrowing at her declaration. "Do you really think that's wise?" His voice was calm, but the threat lay just below the surface. "We have a way of dealing with these matters. Bringing your concerns to light can cause unrest." She felt Tom's hand on her shoulder, a reinforcing weight. "We believe it's time to speak up," he said firmly, his voice steady. "People are hurting, and they deserve to be heard." Pastor John paused, the tension cutting through the air. "You think this will help?" he asked. "You think laying bare everyone's struggles will heal them? You risk creating a fracture in our community, and I cannot sit by and watch that happen." A wave of voices began to swell behind them, murmurs of agreement for what they were trying to achieve, for what they needed. Claire stepped out from the edge of the group. "I have lived with these dark shadows for too long. We can't hide our stories in silence any longer. We deserve more than what we've been given." Kylie could see Pastor John's eyes narrow, calculation evident behind them. Control slipped from his grasp inch by inch as the resolve in that small room began to coalesce into something much larger. "Do you understand the potential consequences?" he asked quietly, desperation leaking into his tone. "This could change your lives, could end friendships, divide families. This is not just a forum, it's a declaration." David, emboldened by the strength of the moment, stepped forward. "Maybe it's time for some declarations. Maybe the silence has done nothing but keep us trapped." At that, the pastor's face darkened. "You have no idea what you're playing with." Silence fell again, but this time it was alive with the weight of truth. Suddenly, there was a flicker of something in his expression, a mixture of fear and something else that looked a lot like desperation. Was it concern for them, or was it fear of losing control? Kylie's heart raced. This wasn't just a conversation, it felt like a standoff. What would happen next? Would Pastor John slam the door on their dreams of honesty, or was he powerless against the tide of their newfound resolve? "Please, think this through," he urged, but his voice faltered as Kylie held his gaze. The gravity of this moment felt monumental as they all stood there, trembling on the edge of change. Just then, a figure appeared in the doorway behind the pastor, a shadow splitting the light, a person she couldn't recognize, yet they radiated an energy that made the air shimmer with anticipation. And as they stepped fully into the light, the group leaned in, caught in a web of uncertainty. Who were they, and what secrets did they bring with them? Kylie couldn't shake the feeling that whatever happened next could shift everything they had come to believe. The newcomer moved with a grace that seemed to defy the tension thick in the air. With tousled hair and bright eyes that sparkled with an intensity that intrigued, he stepped further into the light, revealing a warm smile that almost instantly melted the unease that clung to the room. "Hey there," he said, voice bright and welcoming, a stark contrast to the heavy atmosphere. "Sorry to barge in like this. I couldn't help but overhear. Are you all talking about mental health?" Pastor John turned to him, his posture immediately shifting from authoritative to defensive, eyes narrowing with scrutiny. "This isn't your concern, Trevor. Maybe you should leave," he suggested, a hint of irritation creeping into his tone. "Actually, it is my concern," Trevor replied, unfazed. "I've been where you all are. I struggled for years, and the only thing that helped me was talking openly about it. It's hard, but honestly, that's where healing starts." Kylie's heart fluttered. There was a light in Trevor's eyes that drew her in, offering the promise of understanding. She glanced at her friends, sensing their similar intrigue. "What do you know about this place?" Claire asked, excitement bubbling in her voice. "Who are you?" Trevor chuckled lightly, easing the tension as he gestured to the room. "I'm just a guy who used to be part of this community. I ran from it, thinking I could handle my demons on my own. Turns out, you can't outrun what you refuse to face. I found my way back, and now I'm gathering courage to share what I learned." "Why did you leave?" David asked, curiosity threading through the room's atmosphere. Trevor paused, taking a deep breath. It felt like he was choosing his words carefully. "Because I thought the community wouldn't understand. I was scared of being labeled. But I realized that hiding just worsens everything. It can make you feel like you're drowning." Kylie felt a ripple of connection course through her, as if Trevor's words were resonate chords plucked deep within her heart. She had felt that choking weight of silence, the loneliness of bearing a burden alone. "What do you plan to do now?" Tom asked, shifting closer, as if to glean more from this man who seemed untroubled by fear. "Are you trying to make a point here?" "I want to encourage you all," Trevor replied, his expression turning earnest. "Get this forum started. Speak your truths. It will hurt, but it will also set you free. You have to." Pastor John's face twisted with a mix of frustration and concern. "You don't understand what's at stake, Trevor. This could tear apart everything we've built. Or it could rebuild something stronger," Trevor shot back, unwavering. "You need to realize letting people share their experiences isn't a fracture, it's a chance for connection. The isolation you're protecting is what's hurting us all." Kylie felt a surge of hope, a blossoming realization that there was a choice between fear and truth. The thought of gathering her voice, alongside her friends, into the bright open of discussion seemed to shimmer like sunlight after a storm. As Trevor's heartening presence encouraged conversation, shadows flickered on Pastor John's face. Kylie could see cracks beginning to form in his rigid facade, and she wondered if Trevor's passion might be enough to loosen the pastor's grip on their lives. "Will you stand with us?" she finally asked, turning toward him. Trevor looked around at their determined faces and nodded simply, "I'd be honored." In that moment, a collective breath was released. The weight of fear began to lift, replaced with something buzzing with anticipation. But just as they started to imagine the possibility of their voices rising together for change, a sharp knock echoed through the hallway. Everyone spun toward the door, eyes wide. Who could be interrupting now? Was it someone who would bolster their new momentum, or would they bring doubt back into the room? As the door swung open, the tension twisted into a new knot of uncertainty. What awaited them on the other side? Kylie's heart raced as the door creaked open. The air shifted, tension thickening again. She leaned forward, straining to see who had entered, her friends' faces mirroring her own mix of curiosity and anxiety. In stepped a woman, tall and poised, locking her eyes on Trevor. She took a sharp breath, a mix of surprise and determination bubbling in her expression. Trevor. Trevor froze, recognition flashing across his face. Leah. What are you doing here? The group exchanged whispers, each of them trying to piece together the unexpected reunion. Leah was a familiar figure, everyone knew her as a spirited advocate for mental health who had seemingly vanished from their community months ago, just when they needed her voice the most. I felt something pulling me back, Leah said, her voice steady. I heard you were here. I had to come. You shouldn't have come back, Pastor John interjected, his words dripping with caution. We were just starting to. I know what you're trying to protect, Leah interrupted, her tone unwavering. But what you're doing is wrong. Ignoring people's pain doesn't make it go away. It only festers. David, emboldened by Trevor and Leah, stepped forward. Maybe we're tired of living in the shadows, Pastor. We need to face this together. Pastor John's jaw tightened, his frustration palpable. How can you stand there and say that? You want to open a floodgate of chaos? This community isn't prepared for that. Trevor stepped up beside Leah, his voice smooth and reassuring. But they are. The people here are stronger than you think. They just need a safe space to share. We can create that. It starts with us. Kylie felt the tension grip her again, but it was different this time, charged with potential. She glanced at Claire and Tom, who nodded in agreement. They all felt it, urgency, hope, and the faintest hint of unity. Trevor, Leah, I'm scared, Kylie admitted softly, her vulnerability bursting forth. What if this doesn't go the way we want it to? What if it causes more division? Risk is part of the journey, Leah answered gently, her eyes compassionate. But silence and denial are far worse. We can support each other through whatever comes next. Kylie's heart swelled as she contemplated Leah's words. The vision of a community that allowed truth to flow freely began to take shape in her mind. It was brighter than she imagined. There was power in their collective voices. Just then, a louder knock echoed, making everyone jump. The sound rang through the stillness. What if more surprises lay on the other side? What if it was someone who would challenge everything they just agreed upon? Pastor John's face was a mixture of defeat and resistance. This needs to stop. We've already had enough. Just walk away, Leah. This isn't the right place for you anymore. But Leah stood firm, her eyes blazing with determination. You think I'll run again? Not this time. This community needs a revolution. And I'm ready to lead it. The group felt electric, each heartbeat resonated with the promise of change. As the door opened slowly, revealing yet another unexpected visitor, Kylie's hands trembled. Was this what they needed to cross the threshold into an open conversation? Or could it spell disaster for their newfound courage? The door swung wider. Kylie held her breath as the door fully opened. A rush of cold air swept through the room, carrying with it an unfamiliar scent that set her on edge. She squinted, trying to make out the figure now outlined against the light spilling from the hallway. Standing in the doorway was a lanky man, shivering slightly, a worn backpack slung across one shoulder. His hair was tousled, and his eyes darted around the room, landing on Trevor and Leah before settling on the pastor. Kylie couldn't shake the feeling that this stranger held an unexpected weight. Hey, I'm sorry to intrude, the man began, his voice shaky but resolute. I think I heard Leah's voice. Leah's eyes widened in recognition. Danny? Is that you? Surprise lit up his face. Yeah, it's me. I didn't know if I'd find you here. I was hoping I was desperate. As he stepped inside, the door clicked shut behind him, sealing off whatever doubts loomed outside. Kylie locked eyes with Claire, her heart racing again. The room was thick with rising tension, an energy almost tangible. What do you mean, desperate? Leah prompted, a mixture of concern and curiosity washing over her. Danny paused, swallowing hard. I've been on the run, ever since things got out of control. The town's grown darker since you left, Leah. Those voices we tried to amplify. They're being silenced or worse. Kylie felt as if her chest might explode. What do you mean? What's happening? Danny took a deep breath. You may not know this, but the church has started to shut down any discussions. People are scared to speak up. A group of us tried to get together for support, but there have been threats. They've made it clear that anyone who dares to speak out will face consequences. Pastor John's face was pale, the weight of his past choices etched into his features. This has gone too far. We can't allow fear to reign. Fear is all they know. Danny countered, his voice rising. You need to recognize it, Pastor. You've been too complacent. We all have. Kylie could feel the heat in the room sweltering from the charged emotions. Her hands, still trembling, curled into fists. What can we do? We need to band together, Leah answered firmly, stepping toward Danny, her eyes ablaze with purpose. If we want to change this community, we have to be willing to stand up for each other. Claire squeezed Kylie's arm. Are we really going to confront the church about this? This isn't just about talking anymore. There's a line now. Yes. Trevor replied, his voice booming with resolve. We can't hide anymore. If we want to build something real, we need to face the danger head-on. Kylie's heart raced as she saw uncertainty flicker in the eyes of her friends. But there was also a spark of determination. Could they really do this? Challenge the very foundation of their lives. Just then, another knock rang through the silence, this time more insistent. The tension about to snap was palpable. Kylie glanced at the door, dread creeping in. Was this yet another unexpected visitor, or had they pushed too far into dangerous territory? Should we open it? Tom asked quietly, anxiety pushing his words to a whisper. They stood on the precipice, a moment of decision hanging heavily in the air. Whatever it is, we face it together, Leah declared, summoning a fierce sense of unity. With that mantra echoing in her mind, Kylie reached for the doorknob. Kylie's hand trembled on the doorknob, a moment of silence wrapping around them like an embracing fog. She pushed it open, revealing a wide-eyed woman at the threshold, her chest heaving with emotion. I came as soon as I heard. Helen, a familiar face from the congregation, stepped inside, striking the air with her urgency. The room erupted in a frenzy of whispers. Are you okay? Bunny, another member of the group, jumped to Helen's side, concern etched deeply on her face. What has happened? I've been following what's going on, and I couldn't stay quiet any longer, Helen declared, her voice a breathless mix of fear and resolve. People are spreading rumors that anyone who backs Kylie and her friends will be excommunicated, cast out of the community for good. Gasps filled the space, hearts racing with the weight of her words. More than the truth, the very essence of their community was at stake. Kylie felt anger rise within her, entwined with fear. This is exactly what we were afraid of. She shouted, frustration spilling over. How did we get here? How can our church, our people, let fear take control like this? Trevor stepped forward, his presence steadfast. We're done being silenced. We have to challenge this oppression together. We need to show our community that support is stronger than control. David nodded, his face glowing with resolve. They don't know the strength of our collective voices. We can't let them dictate who we are or what we believe. We must rise as one. It is time to organize our forum. Kylie felt the energy shift, voices rallying behind her. United we can show them the importance of community and compassion over fear and division. She shouted, echoing her spirit with each powerful word. Let us not only invite those who want to speak, but we should rally everyone, Leah suggested, passion bubbling through. People need to know they're not alone. Every story matters. The forum will create a safe space for those struggling, and in doing so we can change everything. Tonight, we gather, Tom declared, his voice ringing with clarity. We'll spread the word. Everyone deserves a place at the table. Kylie surveyed the room filled with impassioned faces, her heart swelling with hope. This isn't just a meeting, it's an awakening. She declared. We will fight for every single person. Let us show them we won't cower in fear anymore. As they all began to strategize, laughter and hope threaded through the air, dreams igniting visions of a transformational future where truth could finally shine. The weight of their burdens began to feel lighter, hope rising like a summer sun breaking through dark clouds. I'll help with posters, Bunny said, eyes brimming with renewed energy. Together, we'll make this gathering unforgettable. As plans formed, inspiration surged within every heart present, the community becoming a living, breathing force of change. And amid the chaotic exhilaration of collaboration, Kylie felt something shift deep within her, a confident sense that they might just be unstoppable. Yet even as they prepared to face the congregation, a feeling bubbled beneath the surface, the unknown possibility that those still lost in fear might fight back, testing their resolve. The nearing forum became not only a beacon of hope but also a looming trial, a vital step toward rebirth, rejoicing in truth and deeply rooting human connection. As they set the date and time, Kylie stood frozen, looking deep into the eyes of her friends. No matter what happens, promise we'll face this together. Together. They echoed, an unwavering commitment binding them tighter than the walls surrounding their sacred space, and when the ink dried on those hastily drawn flyers, a fierce determination filled everyone's hearts. They were ready to rip the veil of silence apart. They were done with waiting. The voice that had been muffled rose like a phoenix, echoing with unending resilience. Let this night change everything. A surge of energy vibrated through them, uniting their souls for a shared purpose: freedom. As the sun dipped lower behind the horizon, casting a golden hue over their town, Kylie felt alive. Every heartbeat echoed a powerful promise for their families, their community, and themselves, and she knew, with absolute certainty, history was ready to shift. In this pivotal moment, they turned to face the door once more, welcoming whatever the night held with unwavering hearts. Kylie stepped forward boldly, a radiant smile breaking through her fears. They were ready at last. Now, we invite you to be part of this journey. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep us going. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this inspiring ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this incredible transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share. True fans understand the importance of supporting this mission.